the question I'm even about to ask you about that and what you have, what your family has accumulated, this kind of ties into the topic that I want to kick things off with.
Okay.
All right. So before we actually get started, y'all hear the voices. Y'all hear my voice. I want to put that clearly. Y'all hear my voice. I was out last week. I was here, but I wasn't here. I'm sorry I missed a milestone, chapter 20, but I wouldn't have anybody else but Portia fill in for me. Incredible episode.
We have to revisit that conversation. Like, we had the
100%.
male-female version of it. Now we need the all-male version of it.
Yeah,
David heard Portia on the episode that he listened to.
Yeah.
Too. Talented.
Yeah.
That's my girl, man.
Absolutely.
That was a great episode. Really was.
No, we appreciate that. Trust me, we'll definitely revisit that today in that conversation. But it feels good to be back, Bookworms, man. I appreciate everybody out there for all the congratulations. It feels weird because I didn't do anything, but my niece was born. First time uncle.
Congratulations.
Yeah, man. I appreciate that, man. It's a different, as someone who doesn't have any kids, I can't even explain that feeling of a child being born and you instantly like, I got you, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it's nothing like that love at first sight type of feeling.
Yep. Exactly
I understand it. I understand why y'all be having kids now, because that's a feeling that you can't explain.
Right.
It's even better because I'm the uncle, so I can just we can kick it and I can go back to mom's and pops. Like, I can go ahead and do my thing. Exactly, man. I can leave, man. So it's real cool to experience that, man. Shout out to Josie. And shout out to you for holding it down last week, Spike. Yeah. Like I said, it was a great conversation between you and Portia. We're not alone. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see someone you might have heard another voice. We've got David here in the building with us, man. David, how you feeling?
Feeling great, man. Glad to be with you guys. And my brother Spike.
Absolutely. Glad
always
to have you.
Enjoy being with him. Yes.
Facts, man.
Absolutely. I got a question. Like I said, I want to get this topic.
Favorite people right here. That's one of my favorite people right here, Rich.
Yeah, man. I for sure, man. I want to get the topic going. Before I get into it and kind of introduce who David is and what his relation is, because there is some familiar ties here. I want to talk about some YouTube comments real quick, Spike. Because since I wasn't on, I wasn't able to read them. Yeah, we got some comments, man. People are interacting. We're revamping things, Instagram page, everything else like that, man. Really just trying to get our digital footprint. There's been a lot of good things happening to me in this podcast space recently, man. Just opportunities, man, for putting in the work. And I want to make sure that I'm capitalizing on it. Kind of a piggyback off what Spike was talking about. Just this is the moment to really sharpen that sword and really put that work in. No different than if you're working out in your body. You say, hey, man, for the summer, I want to be ready. Well, that's built in the winter. You know what I mean? You can't just pop up with it. We talk about it all the time. Those 6 months going to come one way or another. You know what I mean? Your results never lie. They tell you exactly who you are. So, just trying to do a lot of things. So if you're following us on, add Another Week in the Books on Instagram, tap in, send DMs. A lot of the posts that I'm going to start making are going to be interactive, asking questions, follow-ups to our conversations. We got a new system that's allowing us to post some clips. So everything's on the up and up. I'm looking forward to that. But as I mentioned, I want to go ahead and get into some of these comments. Obviously, Portia left the comment saying she loved joining us. Once again, shout out to you and Portia for that conversation, man. And I'm gonna pat my back a little bit because I told Spike the plan was for me to record, and ironically, I was in DC and I left my microphone in Baltimore. And I was just like, man, I can't do that. I can't just go get it and come back. That's just too much. And I thought that you and Portia would have a perfect conversation. I just been as a fan of the show. And I told Mo all the time, Spike, you probably remember, before I became a host of Another Week in the Books, Another Week in the Books was just my favorite listen. Out of all the podcasts, doesn't matter if I'm a part of them or not, it was just my favorite listen. And it was cool to get that fan experience. And I was wondering, like, what can recreate that? Since I'm not going to be on this week's episode. And I thought you and Portia were the perfect match. And obviously, hand in the glove, man. Hand in the glove. So shout out to y'all once again. Things and stuff, Ja, he also commented. Great convo. I think that was on chapter 19 that you and I had, Spike. Ja also mentioned something. I should have looked this up. He left a comment at an hour and 15 minutes. I'm not sure what was said in that chapter 19. I have to listen to it and double back next week. And then our guy, man, Public Enemy B. Shout out to our guy, man, always supporting. this was the conversation when you were talking about everything that happened, divine intervention, divine timing, Spike. He left a comment saying, hell of a story about divine timing and manifestation. Go make it happen, Spike. You got this. The universe is giving you something you've been prepping for. That best case scenario episode is coming to life slowly but surely.
That's good.
He also, yeah, man, I thought about that best scenario ever. He's absolutely right. And also, Public Enemy be mentioned, man, playing Bruno Mars before that type of meeting is nasty work.
It was disgusting.
Blasting the Bruno Mars before you fire a whole organization is nasty. It's sick, man.
Yeah, that was bad.
But I think I guess the only proper way to really do this, man, Spike, I'm gonna let you introduce David, man. You explain your relationship, and you mentioned it's one of your favorite people in the world. I can just tell the energy just of our brief interaction is gonna be a great episode. So, Spike, I'm gonna let you introduce David.
Absolutely. So, if you're from Nashville, you familiar with the last name Swett. It's Nashville royalty as far as people knowing who they are and what they do. And I'm lucky enough to be able to call this man my brother. His dad and my mother have been married for about 20 years. So I've been able to grow into a man, especially from when I first met him to now, and us just having a greater relationship and being able to talk to each other and have conversations. I always enjoy them. So David Swett, it actually is the name Junior. We call him Junior. I get to play golf. One of the few people in my life that I get to play golf with, man. Dave, won't nobody else pick up the clubs, man. I've been trying to convince my friends forever to do it, but nobody else will pick up the club. So every time him and I get together, we get to go play golf, which I enjoy. But like I said, a great person, a great human being. I don't even think you remember, Dave, the first time that we met. You didn't know me then. You came to my high school. You came to my high school and you and Pat talked about being Black entrepreneurs in the city. Y'all had a whole presentation. Like this before we even met or knew each other. That was the first time that I met you. And I was like, damn, these brothers cool, man. They got their own business and restaurants. And y'all came and just talked about what it was like to be entrepreneurs. I think I was in the 9th grade. That was before like we even met or anything like that. But then, of course, as destiny does, it hooks us up together. Me and you, we've grown closer throughout the years just from similar interests, similar like conversations and thinking. So I wanted to have you on because I always love listening to you talk, especially you being a little bit older than me and being able to share a perspective that I may not have thought of. And we'll get into that because you commented on the millennial conversation that we had with Portia, and that's what even sparked this idea of you coming on. But I'm glad you're here.
Yes,
that was my introduction for you. Anything that you want to say before we get off into this?
Well, first, I mean, for those who don't know who I am, I'll give you a brief history. My grandfather, Walter Swett, and Susie Swett, my grandmother, started in Nashville in 1924 in a concession stand in Hadley Park, which is the only all-Black park, one of the few Black parks that was in the city at the time. And my grandfather came to Nashville at 16 with $1 and a mule. And it was the first time he heard the N-word in downtown Nashville. So he knew he never wanted to be called that again or be referred to that or be treated like that. So he saved his money, opened up a concession stand, had 10 children, got them all in business. 3 generations later, here I am, still doing the business. We're still in it. My father's still active today. His stepfather, 80 years old, still every day goes.
Still get to it.
Every day. So, it's in my blood. It is an honor to be born into this family. I recognize now that I'm older, how lucky I was to see entrepreneurs as a young age. So, seeing something sometimes opens gates, opens ways for people who a lot of times in our community, we just don't see it. So whatever it is we're trying to be, it's hard when there's no examples that have been in front of you. And for me, I had great examples, the best, who fought through a lot and still made it happen. Over 100 years of business. And so 3 generations, one of the few Black families who own 4 major corners in a major city in this country. So I'm
It's a
quite
gas station on one corner,
gas station, restaurant, two
complex.
business retail centers that we rent out space to. So 2 commercial lots, several things that we do, and I do. I manage food service for a major Fortune 500 company, Western Express Trucking. We manage all their food services. 365-day operation. We feed about 400 or 500 people every day, 7 days a week. We do the juvenile system here in Davidson County, 3 days a week, three meals a day, 7 days a week, and we do a live venue where we do concerts, weddings, and different things of that nature. So it's quite diverse. Real estate. We're in the airport in Nashville as well. So we do a lot. So I have the good fortune of seeing business and hearing from my grandfather, who had a great perspective of Jim Crow and my father in the civil rights era, and then me right after being born, literally right after 1965 in the civil rights era, to the millennials. So that was kind of what sparked our conversation. Yeah. That hearing it from you guys' perspective, and then kind of taking that in and kind of seeing the path to kind of how some of these things developed and how we got to these places.
I appreciate that, and I'm gonna be honest with you. As you're speaking, a million thoughts just came to my head. I have no idea where I want to start this because there's so many things I think we're going to be able to discuss. But there's one thing particularly that I want to start with. You mentioned the success of your family starting back in 1924 with your grandparents. You were born, you said 1965, if I'm not mistaken?
No, I was born in 1968, but the Civil Rights Act was in 1965. So when I entered school, it was still being experimented. Like, this is how we're going to do it. I remember very distinctly that it being a thing, separating the blacks, the whites, the whole thing of trying to figure out how to make these classrooms work in an integrated system.
So let me ask you a question, not necessarily about school per se, but just growing up. And I guess the first question would be, at what point did you realize that you had a successful family, or was that something you were even aware of? Did you look at it as, hey, my family's just going to work just like the neighbors next door is going to work? Or did you look at it as, oh, our family name means something in this place? What was your perspective growing up as a 10, 11, going into teenage young man about the expectations of what things were, and the opportunities? Yeah.
I don't think I was aware at 10 or 11. I mean, it was just my family going to work. That's what we did. But at around that age, my younger sister was born when I was 10 years old, and my mom got sick. And so me and my brother, Patrick, who is 3 years younger than me, 7, my dad started taking us with him to work because she was sick. And I think it was out of need. He didn't have daycare. He didn't have the right tools at the time. So the only thing he knew was to take us with us. And so that's kind of when we started, really. That's the first memory where he was like, hey, here's some pots, wipe these tables down, do this, do that, and put us to work. And then he got a contract to do all the catering that most of the stars that were doing concerts that came to Nashville. So we became the young writer. We did the writers, which means we set up the dressing rooms for all the acts. And
it's at the Municipal Auditorium, right?
This was at the Municipal. This was at wherever. It was at the Ryman. It was at the wherever. I mean, we did all over. It was at the Grand Ole Opry. We were everywhere at that time, and anybody that came, we did, and we did the dressing room. So we were non-threatening, and I just remember being out crying at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning on a school night, like, why do you have me out working at this time of night? Like, that was my true memory of it, right? And I didn't understand the lesson I was learning the whole time, right? I didn't get it until I got grown. I was a grown man until I really grasped. When you hear stories really about your grandfather or about your father, my dad Lou knows. My dad, to be a businessman, he's not an easy dude. Like, it's not like, he's a tough guy. Oh, seriously, man, he's a real tough guy. Not a fake tough guy. Real. Right?
Thanks.
So, it wasn't, and my grandfather was even tougher. Like, even if you can even, it's hard to imagine, but, he was even, because he got arrested literally every Friday night for being black in business. So imagine that. So imagine being in business, whatever you do today out there that's listening. And for the fact of you having a successful business as a black man, they came and arrested you every Friday night to run you out of business with 10 children at home.
That's crazy. That's
right?
That's wild. That's wild.
So that's really the things I started to understand and hear as I got older and understand who my grandfather was and what he went through. And so the fear of being the one that, quite frankly, effed it up, I didn't want that. I was like, there's no way. So that fuels me. That's what drives me. His spirit, my grandfather's spirit today, what he must have thought, what he must have been going through, and he still managed to create the success that he did, and in spite of it, right? And so, a lot of times when you see people, millennials, and then beyond millennials, they're further and further away from the struggle.
Absolutely. Right? No, you're 100% right. And I think that's going to be a big part of this conversation.
So,
and
they don't really feel it. They don't really feel it, right? Now I'll let you continue on, but that's really it. They are further away than, I can touch both sides, right? I was first really a group that was integrated. My father's class was not. And we began the integration. And then my children is closer to Spike than maybe about 6, 7, 8 years younger than him. 10 years, I don't know how old he is, but I think they're somewhere in there. My oldest child is 36, 37, so she's got to be close to Spike.
Jazz about 7 years younger than me.
Right. Yeah. So you guys always, and that's what kind of led to this, was to me the truly first free generation.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to ask you another question in regards to that growing up. And
we're going to double back to that free generation too, though.
We're 100% going to circle back on that.
Yes.
This is more of a work ethic type of thing, right?
Yes.
So I always think about this story. Kenny the Jet Smith, y'all know him. He used to play in basketball in the NBA, former Tar Heel, Houston Rocket champion. He's on TNT right now, NBA tonight, or NBA on TNT. He told this story on Big Boy's Neighborhood, and I always found it fascinating. One summer when he was at the University of North Carolina, one of the people that roomed with him, like they just kind of randomly assigned people. One of the person that roomed with him, his name was David Kohler. And it's the Kohler plumbing family that if you go look at a toilet, Kohler, that family. And he said at the time, Kenny Smith wasn't aware of it, but at the time they were worth about $400 million, that company. And once he found out who he was, the first thing Kenny Smith said, like, why aren't you executive? Like, why didn't your dad just give you this position? Why didn't he make you executive? And he said, I got to be a plumber first. He was like, what you mean? Kenny Smith's like, what do you mean? He said, no, my dad told me you have to learn every single aspect of this business. You can't just walk in and be an executive. You have to be a plumber first, because that way, when you do work your way up to be an executive and somebody sends you an invoice for screws for $7, they're really $3. You're not getting swindled. You're not getting taken because you learn the business. You know the ins and outs. I think a lot of people, especially as we're talking about this generation, as things get further away from, for lack of better terms, the struggle, as it was called, I think a lot of people are now more entitled, right? My family is successful, so that means I'm successful. So that means I should be already. Why would I have to be a plumber when you've already put in the work? Put me in this position. And the lack of work ethics kind of shows, and the lack of knowledge shows, and the business acumen shows. How was that for you? Because you talked about being 10 years old, going to work and already getting that. Did you, because of those experiences, do you feel like you never even thought about saying, hey, I should just be jumping straight to the top. I should just be running this store. You should give me this strip to operate versus me having to work my way up. Was that something that was just instilled with you based off the story you just mentioned, or
you talking about inside of my own family's company?
Yeah.
Oh, of course. When I was 20, I went to college. graduated with a culinary arts degree, and I got back and I thought I knew it all. I mean, I was ready to tell my dad, sit down, I got it. This is how we're gonna do it from here on in. And I quickly found out it wasn't the case. It's good. Like I still don't run. My dad is 80 years old, so I still haven't reached that spot. And I'm 57 years old, so I'm still striving to get there. He told me he never developed any hobbies, so he's probably gonna do it till he dies. So he'll leave.
That's his hobby. His hobby is his working,
hobby, right?
Yeah.
And so and you got to understand, he grew up sharing pants with his brothers, right? It was successful, but we wasn't any more well off than any other doctor or, middle class family, right? So it didn't really feel any different at the time. But what I didn't realize was happening was the thought of what was happening around me. Most Black families were getting educations.
What I will say as we wait on David to join back in, what I will say is his dad was the first person that, one of the first people that taught me about business, and it wasn't from sitting down having a conversation.
Hello?
I learned. Yeah, you back?
I don't hear you.
Yeah, you back. You back.
Can you hear us? While he figured it out, I was gonna say it wasn't by conversation, Rich. It was by his dad is one of those people. If you're smart enough to sit back and watch what he does, you're gonna learn a ton of shit.
Hello?
Observe.
I can hear you now. I'm sorry. I don't know what.
I was when you blanked out, I was just explaining. I was explaining to them.
Yeah.
The people, I said, your dad taught me more about business.
Yeah.
Than people who actually have seminars, classes, and books about it. And it wasn't from him sitting me down and telling me, hey, this is how you do it. If you're smart enough to observe your dad and you see how he runs his business, you learn a shit ton of stuff.
Give me an example.
It's fascinating.
So my dad, for example, I'll start back. You have to understand everything that most people who are in business today, right, have concepts of a business. They don't understand it from the dishwasher to the executive. They only understand it from their role, their executive role, or whatever their position is. And and a lot of times in our community, we start, you understand what my grandfather did was the ability to pass on generational wealth, which in the form of property, right? The restaurant is the least of it. The businesses are the least of it, right? He bought that property that the restaurant sits on for the total property was like $4,700, right? So you're talking about, 10,000. He made, 4 corners now. You're talking about multi-million dollar investments that was made on, But the fact that we can do business on property that we own. We're not renting, so the property is increasing in value every year, and we're selling on those properties, right? So, and the difference is the ability to be your own boss. That's what I learned was I saw my dad, my uncles decide we're going wherever to next week, and we do it. He ain't got to ask nobody to do nothing. Ain't got to get nobody together, right? And I saw how he moved. I observed how he moved. I observed how my grandfather moved. And I got an understanding now. And I also understood that, like my grandfather said, listen, I had $1 and a mule and a 2nd grade education when I got here. And I hope I can say this if I can't edit it out, but I'm going to say it because it is. I was a nigga when a nigga was a nigga.
Yeah. No, that's yeah.
Right.
Say it again.
And
say that one more time so people really understand what you mean.
Just really emphasize
that, they freely use that nigga
right. And so, he was heavily, I mean, our restaurant, our spots are in the Green Book, right? So my grandfather was, you know, these were people coming to us. These were safe locations for people to move around in the South and stop in and eat and have a place to gas up and do things, right? And so civil rights stuff comes through these spots, and he's like on the opposite side. Like my grandfather always said, I wasn't with that, what they was talking about, like that marching and singing and all of that. He was like, we owned 13 to 18% of everything. We had our own grocery stores, our own gas stations, our own hotels, our own movie theaters, our own shopping malls, our own everything. And we gave that away for what? Civil rights?
For segregation.
Let me
segregation.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
As someone who is intimate with that time period, what are your thoughts on that? Because that's a very popular conversation about we were better off.
Yes.
Because he got mad about the question.
we were better off keeping our Black-owned businesses, keeping our community tight. Now you look at the value or the duration of the black dollar, how long it stays in our community compared to other nationalities. I mean, it's like minutes almost. I'm being a little facetious, but we're quick to spend elsewhere and not keeping it in our community. What are your thoughts on that growing up and seeing everything from where it was to where we are today in 2025?
They instantly painted a picture for you guys, your generation, that what we did was second class first. Any black business is automatically not worthy or on the same level as anybody else first. So if your father had a plumbing, if your father was a plumber, if your father was an electrician, if he had this, you're not going into that because that's not respected, right? So that was a thing planted into a lot of kids' heads, unfortunately, right? That it wasn't cool. I quickly understood. When I went to college, I got a job for the first time, like outside of my family. And I quickly understood how sad it was to sell my talent for a few pennies. To allow somebody to tell me what time I start and what time I finish. What time I can go see my son, my daughter, my whoever, and what time I can't. I got to get permission to do a lot of stuff for a little bit of money, right? And the problem with most of us is we don't believe that we can create enough to live on. We truly have been sold that we need to get a great education so we can get a good job. And what happened is your generation figured out that that was a motherfucking lie because you still ain't got nothing for the most part. Like you're talking about, I can't get a house, can't get a this, can't get a that, right? Because it costs too much. Right?
And
because
you
you're, as long as you work for somebody else, your cost of what you're going to make that month is set.
What do you? So, I got a question for you, and this has to do with the black family, right? And we're going. This is going to bounce around a lot of different places, but I love it because it's all going to be generational. Well, actually, before I even get to that question, I got a question for you because a different one. Because if you look on social media or you talk to people, one of the biggest complaints that I hear, almost on a daily, if you search for it, black people complaining about supporting black-owned businesses. I want to support this black-owned business, but the service is terrible. I want to support this black-owned business, but they can't be professional. I want to support this black-owned business, but they're not meeting the standards of what you just mentioned. We're looking at them as a second class and holding them to this certain standard versus going somewhere else. What do you think? What do you think that changed, or how do you view it as someone who was a part of a black-owned business for decades, multiple generations? Do you see a difference in how your family runs their business and the principles you share versus newfound or new age black-owned businesses and how they're running their operations?
Well, I think it's twofold, right? I don't think it's as simple as one way or the other, right? First, I think these same people who complain go into Walmart and shit strolled all over the place and looks raggedy. They make you wait on yourself. You got to check yourself out and don't say anything. You go right in there and do it. If you did that in a black business, they would say, they ain't even got nobody to wait on me. It's terrible. I'm not going there. And they broadcast it as loud as they could to whoever would listen. They'll go to McDonald's, get served the whole wrong order, drive all the way home, and go right back to McDonald's the next day and not say a word.
Great point.
Right? So
tell them the story.
So I walk into there's a young lady, I won't name her business. She has a store she's just opened up, right in my neighborhood, where all our businesses are, where the base is. And so anytime I see a new business and it's black owned, I'm interested. I walk in, I start shopping. I'm intentionally buying, She doesn't sell anything I want, but I'm buying because she's black and I want to make sure I support her, right? So I get to the register and I'm setting my stuff on the counter and I start to ask her a few questions because I'm curious who she is, if I can help her, Anyway, and so I say, hey, tell me about your business, right? What is the focus? What are you doing? She's telling me blah 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 blah. And I said, when she started talking and she was talking about how difficult it was and how underfunded she was and how she was having trouble, blah 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 blah. And I said, well, have you spoken to any of the local business people? Because we're not the only one. There's others in our community that have done well. And have you spoken to any of the other business leaders in the community? She goes, no, they won't talk to you. I go, oh, okay. And why won't they talk to you, right? She goes, well, that's just what they just won't. And I said, and you spoke to who? Which one? I said, I'm not sure who you spoke to, but who did you speak with? I didn't speak with anybody. Somebody told me they wouldn't. I said, oh, somebody told you.
And she mentioned his family specifically.
Yeah, and she mentioned my name. And she said, the Swetts won't help nobody. I said, oh, okay. That's odd. I said, that hasn't been my experience with them, but, that's odd. So I don't say anything else. I give her my credit card. So she looks at my credit card and realizes my name is on the credit card and looks back up. And then she's now, backpedaling a little bit and, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, no, that's your honest opinion. I was trying to help you as we speak, right? But you have
went out of your way
that I won't, so I won't, and I'll move on, right? Because you never walked and asked me. I'm 2 steps from you, and I said you never came and asked me anything, right? You took the word of I don't know who, right? I don't even know who the person is you're talking about, but it's the prop. See, And second, our problem is underfunding. Again, as I spoke, my luck in business is that my grandfather purchased a lot of the property in a time, and over generations, this property changes in value. So the ability to get loans, the ability to leverage money, the ability to move things becomes different when you have assets. And that's something in our community we lack a lot. Assets. We don't really understand, the value. We're really eager to get to our first car, to get to, some good looking clothes, to get to a nice vacation, to get to certain things, but they're all depreciating assets. None of them appreciate. So if you don't ever have or never get an appreciating asset, you're never going to have wealth.
Facts. I tell you, one of the most fascinating things about that story when he told me about it was this one, and you went into this when we were talking, and I'll open it back up for you. One was you never know who you're talking to,
right?
And you should carry. I had this conversation with one of my friends today, and he was like, "Well, one, you never know who you're talking to, so you need to carry yourself how you want to be viewed in conversations versus how you're feeling on an emotional standpoint, because you're running a business. You need to know I'm a business owner first before my personal feelings come to play. That's the first thing.
Right.
The second thing about it was, it's like you said, David. So many people have opinions that they're loud about
Yes.
when they don't have to say anything.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We were talking about when you explained this to me,
Yes.
how so many people were like, "Oh, I don't eat at Sweats.
Right.
Oh, I don't like, I don't do this." Versus, all right, y'all getting y'all shine. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't got like, I may not personally like it,
right,
but I don't gotta go out and be like, "Oh no, I ain't do that because they
exactly.
food this, they food that."
Exactly.
Because, like you said, you don't do that about McDonald's.
Right.
You don't do that
Mhm.
about Walmart. And we can even take it to what we do, Rich, with a podcast. Like, people have did that. Oh, I don't listen to them because they do this and they do that. Like, bro, you can keep that to yourself.
Yes.
You don't have to grandstand and be a hater. Like, you can not like something and like be like, you know what? I just don't like it. But I'm not going to get on a platform and say all of these negative things about a black business, somebody who's trying to do something positive, somebody who has established themselves in a market. And yeah, you may not like the food, but who the fuck cares? We've been doing this shit. We've been doing this shit since the 20s. It don't matter if you like the food. Like, we're successful anyway. And it irritates me with this generation. David, you made me realize this when we were talking. You brought this up. Like, people are so anxious to tell you what they don't like.
Right.
I don't care what you don't like, bro.
Right. Tell me what you like. Tell me, like, and then it's the same people who talk about, I can't find any black businesses to spend money with. Right. You can't have the energy both ways. Right. And if we want to develop a community, if we want to build a community, it has to start. If you the African proverb, if you want to travel 1,000 miles, you got to take the first step first.
Facts.
You can't get to 1,000 until you take one.
You take one step.
And we have to accept where we are in this journey. And we also have to accept that we're monolithic. We have different likes. We got different opinions. We got different everything. But we got the common enemy. Our enemy is the same. And as long as our enemy keeps us here, as long as we've been here, and we've been here since the beginning, we're going to stay in this perpetual situation of,
not getting shit done.
I can tell you what happiness is. You want to know what happiness is? It's freedom. It's freedom to tomorrow. I wish Spike could have been there. My dad's 80th birthday. We're sitting there, and this is another one of those stories. Me and my sons we're at this place, where it's a pickleball club last week in San Juan, Puerto Rico. It's my dad's 80th birthday and my birthday. So we all went there to celebrate. We're born on the same day.
Happy belated. Happy belated to you and your pops.
So this white couple was sitting there, and they're with their sons and family, and we're playing, and they start, as soon as you're in their same surroundings, they want to know what you do. That's the first thing they do. So
how are you here?
How'd you get here?
So what are you doing here? Like, what do you do? And I said, well, we do a lot. That's what I said. So it's too much. I said,
that's like the pod. That's like the pod comments. Like,
I wouldn't bore
people
you
do
with
that
the
to me.
details of what we do. It's, we're on vacation, right? And so she's like, where you from? I said, we're from Nashville. Like, she's like, I love to see that. I said, yeah, it's great. Where are you from? She said, I'm from Chicago, blah, 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 blah. I said, oh, Chicago's a great city. I wouldn't dare go there in the winter. She said, that's why we're here. Because we don't want to be there in the winter. I said, and then more of us start coming in. There's a bunch of us. And she's like, all of those are with you? I said, yeah, it's 39 of us here, right? And what I know about my dad, like, my dad will walk into a place, right? He sits down at a restaurant, he starts ordering something. You better not ask him how much something costs, right? Because if you ask him what it costs, he's going to look at you and tell you, look, motherfucker, you'll run out of food before I run out of money. So you just keep bringing this shit. Whatever all of these people tell you to bring, you just keep bringing it until you get, until I tell you to stop. So, he gonna walk up, and whoever's getting his car at the valet, he gonna give him $100 right off the rip. I said, then why you do that? He said, because when that motherfucker see me, I want him to know who I am when I walk in the room. Come get my car first, because you already know what you're gonna get. So I got a, opportunity to see, and my grandfather was even, was more like the fourth corner that we own, that I told you we own 4 corners. We just got that one this year. The fourth one, just acquired this year. We first could have bought it in 1977. But the guy who owned it was the guy who was friends with the police department who used to have my grandfather arrested every Friday night. My grandfather forbid my father from buying it in 1977 for $40-something thousand. 2025, it sold for, guess what?
I don't even want to know. I can't even imagine.
Take your wildest guess.
That a corner. So what's on the corner?
I mean, it's a commercial
gas station.
It's a
commercial spot. All right, so
it's a commercial. It has 3 or 4 commercial spots that you can rent out.
40,000 in the 70s. I'm gonna say 300.
1.9 million today.
Well,
I want to speak to something he said though.
Could have bought a place in Dumbo before it was Dumbo.
Dumbo, right?
So you didn't know he knew that Rich. He was on
yes.
I want to speak to something he said though.
Yeah,
Dave and I have different backgrounds.
Yeah,
I met him when I was like 21.
Yeah.
I didn't understand, like everything that he's explaining made me want to jump in and really hit home this point. I didn't understand how to live until I met them. I was used to coming up around people that were surviving. 9 to 5 work every day, like they surviving, like trying to rob Peter to play Paul, whatever it may be. Like, yeah, some people had better situations than others, but the first time I went out of the country was with his family. We all went on a cruise. All of David's kids, his brother, their kids, his dad, my mom, me. And it just opened up a whole new world to me to understand what he's saying when he say, oh, I'm giving the valet dude $100 because I want him to know who the fuck I am. So he'll go get my car first. And when you unlock that, when you see that, when you on, it's not on TV, it's not a drug dealer doing it. Like from what I was used to, it's like, oh, no. You can do this and you can be successful at it and you can be what you want to be. And I had never experienced that before. Like his family taught me how to live. Like I conducted myself like when I was in a relationship and we would go places and go out of town and things of that nature and go out of the country. I was like, oh no, this is how you're supposed to do it versus having a mindset of, oh, I'm just in survival mode. Because until I met them, it was survival mode. But now I understand more about what living is. And that's the benefit of coming up in a family like that. And I just had to get that out there before we moved on to another topic.
And you know, and I appreciate him saying that, you know. And I even, you know, it's you know, it's a thin line because you have to, like my dad is as much as when he has fun, he has fun. But he is just as frugal and you know, understands
he ain't wasting no money.
How to not waste money, how not to you know, because I don't want to give off that impression to the people because that is the opposite. He knows where every quarter is. Trust me, everyone. And his mind is sharp. Is it's just, you know, it amazes me how sharp his mind continues to be, and to watch him still talk about deals, like call me up on the phone in the morning with that excitement in his voice, right, about seeing a deal that he wants me to go look at with him. And you know, for me, that's just like heaven. Like I'm in heaven, like, you know. And I didn't understand that stuff when I was younger, you know, and that's the thing, you have to get older. And even as I got older, even in my relationship with Luke, I wish I understood what earlier to connect. I mean, I called him up and I took blame because I really never, I'm so much older than him, I never really connected with him. Like I just left him hanging up there while we all traveling together. I never really brought him in and said, hey, let me put my arm around you. And, you know,
that was one of my favorite days. Like I told that story on another week in the books, Dave. Like when you called me and was really genuine about like, you know, we should talk once a month. We should do these things. And I never really had anybody that done that for me, especially in the position that you're in as far as what you've seen. And like, I want to show you this. That's why I appreciate, like, when I say you're one of my favorite people, when we go play golf, like, it's not overbearing. It's not like, hey, let me tell you this. We're able to be normal around each other, and when we have conversations, but we still get something from it. And it was something that, like, we could have taken advantage of it earlier, but I am glad that we still have gotten to this place.
So let me ask this. Let me ask this real quick, David. What was it that made you do that? What was going on in your life that made you look and say, here's this person that I've known of for all these years. Today's the day I'm just gonna be like, you know what? Like you said, let me put my arm around him. What was your thought process, and what was it that clicked for you to make you do that?
That's a good question.
You know, it's just his, you know, Spike is quiet, right? I mean, he can be around you sometime and you not know he's around you, right? And in my family, a lot of loud and very personable, a lot of people with a lot of big personalities. So I can see how you can get in there and kind of get lost, especially if you wasn't brought up with all of this, right? You don't understand.
Always observing.
You don't
always
understand.
Observing. I get it.
You don't understand the inside jokes. So I think, you know, I got 4 children. And as my kids transitioned out of my house, you know, and when you're raising a family, like you said, having the kids, you kind of get, it wasn't intentional. I just was tunnel zoned on making sure I got them where they needed to be in life. And one day we were maybe at my dad's, I don't know where we were. I just looked at him and it was like a voice from God. God was like, man, what, you haven't even like tried with this brother, right? Shame on you. Kind of like, I mean, that's just the voice that spoke to me. And and I saw him in a different light. Like I saw him. Like, I mean, it's almost, you know, I knew him. I'm not trying to say I didn't know who he was. I knew exactly who he was. I knew, you know, but I saw him. I saw what he was trying to do with his podcast. I saw the effort. I mean, I saw him in a different way, and it was kind of weird. I don't know why I did. I just did. And I knew at that moment, you know, I needed to connect with him and make sure that we had a relationship, and it was a good one. And
it was so genuine, too. It wasn't forced. It wasn't like, when you called me and we talked for maybe 30, 45 minutes. That's probably the longest we've talked.
Ever.
It wasn't because, like, and again, it wasn't because we were avoiding each other, thought a certain way about each other. Both of us just had our head downs doing what we thought we needed to do. And I think it was mutual. Like when you called and you told me, I'm like, damn, you're right. I feel the same way. I'm sure you probably got as we were talking, the same for me.
Right. You know, and also his mom. I mean, I gotta give her a shout out, man. I mean, you know,
one of the best people in the world, man.
You know, my dad, anybody that can take care of my dad and love my dad.
My mom, a special person, bro.
You know, and I got love for Lisa. You know, real love. She, you know, just she's there for my dad. You know, always. Like, you don't see him without her. Ain't no movement with left with it. I mean, that's his left arm, right arm, and you know, and I certainly appreciate her as well. And you know, a lot of that stuff, you know, you gotta understand. You know, I guess when you got a niece, and you know, is your sister or your brother?
Sister,
right? Like, she's about to be as busy as she's ever been in her life. Right. Whatever time y'all had is about to be gone. Like, you're gonna have to go there to see her, to see the baby, to be involved in that. Because I say a baby is the ultimate gangster that comes into your life, right?
Right.
They look at your schedule, they like, oh no, we ain't doing none of that. This is what we're gonna do here today. This is what we're gonna do today. No, tomorrow you're gonna do this. No, you're not doing that next week. This is what you're gonna do, right? They dictate every move you make once they're born. They're the only thing that ever happens to most humans, like you said, you described it perfectly, where you don't know this person, you've never met them. The moment you see them, you know you love them beyond imagination.
It's crazy I can never have. It's insane. It's an insane feeling. It really is.
Right. You know you got them. Whatever. I got you. It doesn't matter. Right. And you know, and that's what it is, and that's what makes it great. So, you know, I wanted to transition this too, if I could. You talking about, I heard you guys in that conversation about the family reunion. Like, you guys don't really, you don't pick. Nobody's picking up the mantle, right?
Yeah.
You know, and what's crazy is I look at my dad and I was thinking about that. Like, it was his birthday. He's got 39 people at a steakhouse in Puerto Rico on his dime, drinking and eating. I mean, just think about that. Take two people to a steakhouse drinking and eating, and you report back to me, right?
Imagine 39
yes,
people.
he got 39 people in there. He done chartered a bus. He got a bus for them, picking them up at the hotel, taking them around, you know, for 2 or 3 days. And he was as happy as I've seen him because all these people showed up for him, right?
Right.
And, you know, so he gives, you know, he understands the value of the next generation and, you know, and passing on. Like, you know, we can't continue to let go of what we have. We got to keep it.
I love, man, I promise this is all just flowing perfectly because the very next thing I wanted to ask you, you mentioned without real estate, without land, there is no generational wealth, right? There is no wealth. What is
not just land, but appreciating assets. There's other
appreciating assets,
yes, but land is one of the more tangible ones. Yes.
Thank you for correcting me. I want to make sure we get that right.
Yes.
And the reason why I'm asking is because I don't want to categorize an entire generation, so I'm going to try not to do that. However, I feel like people from your generation appreciate things like family businesses, appreciate grandma's house, appreciate grandpa's business more than the generation that might be today that says, oh, this was left to me. What's the quick flip? How can I flip this and just cash out on this investment versus you seeing the importance of, no, these 4 corners are going to feed the Swett family and those descendants of it generation. Y'all gonna be looked at as the Kennedys in Nashville pretty much, or you know, whoever, you know, what do you think it is that people today need to realize about the importance of holding on to those appreciating assets versus trying to get a quick buck?
I think it's critical at this moment. If we don't, we're going to be lost forever really fast. The country is changing right before our eyes. And if we don't grasp hold of our own economy, you know, we don't even control our own economy. We most of us go to work, get a job, collect a check, and that check pretty much transfers back to them, right? For rid of space and time in this country, right? You're not really accumulating anything. You're doing this. Right? And so if that's what you're doing and that's what's happening, you've got to look at your life. See, I don't know how many times, this is the difference, I think, in an entrepreneur and the average person. Every year, we're forced to look at our business and say, what happened? Right? Did I make money? Did I not? Did we lose? Did we, you know, something happened, right? There was a story that has to be told, right? There is a story that has to be told. So, and it's never good enough, whatever the story is. Like, I don't care how good it is, you always are like, you know, it's like, that's what I love about playing golf. You play, and no matter how good you play, there was always that one putt. There was always that one chip that you still wish you got, right? And we have to look at our spending and what we're spending. See, we don't understand what money is. Money is a tool, right? Money is just like these headphones. It's just like this microphone. It's this system. It is a tool it helps you do what you need to do, right? And when you're doing that tool and doing that work, how does it repay you? Multitude, plus, not, you know. And so a lot of people look at money as when they first get it, they're like, I want something for me personally. Right? Entrepreneurs look at money and I get 1,000, how do I make it 3? I get 3, how do I make it 9? Right? And if you're constantly taking every time you get a bunch of money, because the best, most opportune time to do the most with money is when you have more. The more you can do, the more you can leverage, the more you can exert, the more you can do, right? You can buy a $1.9 million piece of property.
Yep.
You can't do it if you don't have money to leverage it and go get it, right? They have to know that you can pay it. They have to know that you got it. They want to know you got it. They don't want to know you can pay it. They want to know you got it. You know, if you was to fuck around and fall over today, we can get the money if whoever can't pay it off that's left behind. So the biggest problem with us is we just waste too much money.
What do you think when you say waste too much money? What are you seeing? Clothes, shoes, like materialistic things? What are you saying when you think we waste too much money?
We're in a time of instant grab. The phone, internet, all these things in your generation. I wasn't born with a phone. There was no internet when I was a kid. We went outside at the crack of dawn and we had the street lights. You had to figure out what time the street lights was going to dim, and you had to get in that house.
You better be back.
As long as you was in that house, your parents didn't give a shit where you was. You ass could have been all over the city. Nobody cared if Auntie down the street saw you, she'd get in your ass. It didn't matter. Like, and you know, you couldn't come home and say somebody whooped your ass because they called and whooped your ass again if she confirmed that your story didn't match with whatever she said. So you just fucked up and got two ass whooping when you could have just got one if you had just shut up, right? So it's, you know, the value of what you like. The instant gratification. I get something. I need instantly to feel something. Boom. I need to spend some money. I need to buy something. I need to do something. Versus saying, okay, instead of buying Amazon, 225. You know what Amazon stock is today? Does anybody?
No, not talking about no.
194. You know how many people listen to your podcast spend $194 on Amazon today? And didn't think about buying one Amazon stock?
Right.
You know how many people bought a pair of Nikes and didn't think about buying one Nike stock? You know how many people bought, you know, every morning, that's the first thing I do is look at the stock market. What is it? Can I buy? What is available to me to earn money? Yes.
So I'm glad you talking about this. Like I said, this conversation is just flowing naturally. And my bad, Spike, man. I feel like I'm taking up all the questions, man. My bad.
Hey, this is I'm like you last week. This is what I expected. Like I got my producer head on. Like this is what I expected. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Me and Dave talk all the time, so I wanted you to be able to get your questions off.
I appreciate that. I feel like finances and investing and things of that nature, real money management, right, is something that I'm like very astutely aware of at this point in life and trying to gain knowledge. Where for somebody who was trying to start to learn this, do you have 2 or 3 places or 2 or 3 things they should start doing right now to, hey, put your money to work for you, whether it's reading this every morning, whether it's looking at the index every morning, whatever the case is, for the person that doesn't know anything about anything, their first generation, whatever. And I'm trying to figure out how to make this money work for me. What are 2 or 3 tips that you would have for them? Like, hey, tomorrow morning, start doing this right now.
Okay. First thing I can tell you is since the stock market opened, it's always risen. It's never lost.
Elaborate on that a little bit.
So if you put $1 into the stock market, you're gonna make some money 9 times out of 10 if you let it stay there, right? So if you need more than that, so my thing is, what do you buy? Here's the thing that nobody, this is why we don't create any business. We never are thinking about how business works. Like, where is the money going? What's making all this happen? So if Amazon is sending shit to everybody's doorstep, it don't take a rocket science. If you ordering every day from Amazon your darn self, take that next week. Take that next week instead of buying product, buy stock the whole next week instead every day. And let it sit for the long term. Don't touch it. We've forgotten about slow. We're so into quick, and there's no quick way to make money. It's a quick way to lose it. You can lose it in a hurry. But if you make $100, and here's the next thing. I don't know what your paycheck is, but let's just say it's $1,000 to keep numbers simple. If you're gonna give the church 10%, you got to give yourself 10% too. How you gonna work all week and you the only person that don't get paid? You paying all these white people for your labor, and you the only one didn't get nothing. So if you put 10% up every paycheck in the stock market, in the next 20 years of your work life, you're gonna be a millionaire.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
If you take that 20% and you go buy a new pair of shoes, you go buy another sweatshirt, you buy another this, you're gonna be broke in 20 years. But you're gonna have a lot of nice sweatshirts.
But the flies broke nigga on the block. Fly
as hell. All these people I see with these, boy, they be getting these purses and shit. You can't put in the purse what you paid for the purse. You don't know how stupid that is. I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. You know, and that's where my grandfather taught me. It's like, okay, whatever you want to buy, and this is a good lesson right here too. And I'm glad we brought this up. When I see something I personally want to buy, there's just, I want to buy a new golf club, and it's $450. If I can't put $450, I double tax myself. If I can't put $450 up in the stock market, then I can't buy that damn golf club. If you're not worth more than your stuff, you don't find your own life, your own family, your own future generations worth. My little grandbabies are rich, and they don't even know it.
Yeah.
Don't even know what money means right now.
I'm sorry. This is a perfect transition.
So you know why?
Yeah,
because my grandfather decided a long time ago that he was going to save his money and invest it in appreciating assets. And then my dad picked up the mantle and he decided he was going to do the same thing. And now it's our opportunity. It's coming up here, and we have to figure out how the next generation, you know. Now, here's the problem with the next generation. None of them work for us.
What do you mean when you say that? What do you mean when you say that? Yeah, what do you mean when you say that?
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm not working forever. Somebody, what happens? Like, that's the plan now. I mean, now we're in a space where if nobody, like me and my brother, are the only two people alive who know how to do this behind my dad. None of our children understand this, what we do. They're all super educated,
went to college, got the benefit of having your name, had the money. They now have removed themselves.
Private school educated from beginning to end. You know,
that's
highly educated people.
That's really interesting. I never thought about that. All of them have removed themselves from the core of what your family does.
Right. But now that they're in the workforce, right, I believe they'll be back because now they see, you know, what kind of monkey show it is.
Because they did. Yeah, they did. Like you said, they worked in the restaurants though.
They've worked.
All of them worked in the restaurants. Yeah.
But they didn't take time. They know what it is, but they don't know, you know,
how to run it.
Right. There's a difference. You know, they know what it is, but they don't know how to run it. They're smart enough to figure it out. What we do now, I mean, the restaurant business won't be beyond the next few years. I mean, we're more of a real estate company now than we are. I mean, that's the only reason why the restaurant is even open today is because my dad. Of the real estate. Yes, and it's his baby. He's not gonna, you know, which is fine. But I mean, what we make on the restaurant is pennies as to what we can make if that place wasn't there.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, because we're talking about kids and generations and things of that nature. Two questions, but I'm gonna start with this one, and I'd like you to answer. Then I have a follow-up for you.
Okay.
As a parent, you did a beautiful job of telling us the history of this property, the history of this land, your grandfather and grandmother. Is there any part of you that says, nah, this means too much? One of y'all, if not all of y'all, are taking over this business. Or is there a side of you that says, you know what, you have the opportunity, you were granted the opportunity to carve your own path in life the same way everyone else should be? How does that work as somebody who's so proud of their family name, family business? And then you mentioned like, hey, there's only 2 of us right now. What's the next 20 years look like for us?
Right.
Like, what's your thought process on that? How do you approach that?
Well, at first, I believe in I'm faithful, right?
Absolutely.
So I know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, 6 years ago, I didn't have grandchildren, right? So you don't never know what the next 5 years hold, right? Now I got 3 little grandchildren that run around and call me granddad and, are amazing. And that's, it will work. Let me just say how. My kids are super intelligent, right? So I do know that. And what they're doing right now is we just need more territory. They're just spreading out. My son is in Seattle. My daughter is military. My other daughter, my oldest daughter is in Nashville. My youngest son is in Nashville. And, we will be a real estate company, not a restaurant. So it will be a lot different for them, for what they will be required or what they will need to understand. And they can run that from anywhere. That's an online business, pretty much. You just need to collect checks, keep, have somebody can do stuff. But
and to speak to it really quickly, knowing his children, I'm older than them, but I was able to be around them and understand they're smart. All of them are smart. Like all of them, I have good relationships with, and all of them, when David says it's a real estate company, they will be able to make that pivot from, oh, we sell food to, oh, my last name is this, and this is the weight that it holds, and I'll be able to make these moves based off my last name. All of his kids. Like I respect all of them as far as I seen them grow up. Because you're talking about a sense when I was I wasn't grown, but I was like in my 18, 19, 20s years old, and they were children. And I've seen them from then till now, and like, oh, okay, I get it. Like they have they're married, they have kids, and they have careers, but all of them have the capability to utilize what their grandfather or great grandfather has built. They will be able to do that. And that's one of the, I'm sure for you, Dave, that's one of the most satisfying things.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about that. They'll do better than we ever thought to dream. I'm my grandfather's wild.
Like when you talking about Jasmine, Jalen, Jordan, like that. Come on, bro.
Yeah, I mean, like when we're talking about like Jalen is like just as Jazz is first of all just a natural born leader. I mean, she's a school teacher. She teaches law enforcement. That's my oldest. Jalen is. I mean, he runs the first robotics plant, Amazon. He's he runs the whole plant. I mean, he's over the whole entire plant. So he's a pretty big wig with Amazon. And Jalen Jordan, he works at Western, which is the company I was telling you about. He manages logistics for them, getting the drivers across this country back and forth where they need to be. And just as his twin, she's a surface to warfare officer, lieutenant in the Navy, Naval Academy grad, just super sharp individual.
You got a nice bloodline, bro.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's the thing about it is, this is what I've learned about when I look back on my life, even the tragedies, it was supposed to happen, right? And you have to. That's the thing about, like, I think too many people get caught up in when things are going wrong or when they feel like things are going bad, because those are when your greatest lessons are about to be. You're about to learn, or you're about to break through to the greatest part. If you can get through it, if you can fight through it. Most people quit And the only way to guarantee failure is to quit. That's the only guarantee to failure. Quit.
Yeah.
Right. And this, your generation, and even the generation after yours, you know, I was reading an article about what is it, Z? What's the next? What's the?
I think
we
Z is
millennials. I
after
think
us.
they
We're millennials. I think
Gen
Gen Z is
Yeah,
after
they
us.
Gen Z.
Y'all Gen X, yeah.
Getting fired at the highest rate of the layoffs and all the stuff that's going on because their inability to go to work.
That makes sense.
Right?
True.
Entitlement, everybody getting a trophy, everybody being great. Like the greatest myth known put on human beings is that you can be anything that you want to be. That is simply not true. You can be anything you're good at. You can't be anything you want to be. Right? I desperately wanted to be Michael Jordan, and I was not. Right? I don't care how hard I worked, how many times I shot, how many dribbles I did. I was not able to play at that level. Right? So you can want it. It doesn't mean you're good enough to do it. Right? So, you know, Spike finding his way, you finding your way to these waves. Like you have to now figure out, okay, I'm good, but that's not enough. Like every day is like, how do I get 1% better? How do I get just a little bit better? How am I getting a little bit better? And are you self-evaluating yourself and able to hear criticism without, you know, I mean, when you're on our side, we get, like I said, we get criticized every single day. Like it is what it is. People don't like you. Okay, you don't like me, right? And what you have to understand is I don't need everybody. I just need the ones, right? The ones that have, you know, allowed us and blessed us with a life that is beyond my wildest imagination. I've been all over this world with my dad. I've worked with my dad my whole life. I've worked with my brother my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
You gave your kids
my
jobs.
uncles. I gave my kids jobs. You know,
that's beautiful.
Cousins, like
me.
you know,
shit, I work.
Yeah,
Man,
I mean, you know, and you know, we have to learn to love ourselves again, and don't believe what they say about us. They want you to hate each other. You know, they want you to believe that their services is better, that their ideas are better, that what they need you to do to be successful in this country is better. And what you need to do is break it down and quit making it so damn complicated, right? If I get $10, I gotta give 10 to my Lord and 10 to myself. If you keep giving 10% to yourself, that's minimum now. I'm saying you want to get to more than that, but you should never, ever go to work all week. Make a check and then don't have nothing for you to put away. Stop it today. Like I hear all this stuff about the boycotts and we're gonna do this. Okay, let's say we do that. We spend, you know how much we spend? $15 million a day in Target alone as Black people.
That's crazy.
And just Target. Only Target, right? And we want them to do what? Give us DEI, right? Raise your hand if you know what DEI has done for anybody that you know.
Nothing.
Right?
It's done more for white women than anybody else.
So we want them, we're boycotting them to re-implement something that didn't help us in the first damn place, right? Versus when are we gonna start saying we're gonna take that $15 million? If we just took one day of that money and put it in the Black community, and then we fuck around and put 2 days of that money in the Black community. Then what if we fuck around and do 3 days? What can $45 million do in a week? $60 million in a week.
Facts.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, it's us that's deciding not to do this, not them. No racist, no white supremacist, no none of that. If you think that's what the problems in your life are, it's why you're still broke.
Damn, that's a hell of a point, Dave. Because a lot of people will try to blame it on, like, you have these conversations, you talk about with Trump this and white supremacy this, but there is a self audit that needs to happen amongst Black people to make it where, like, yeah, all of those things may be true, but before we even get to that, we need to address this.
Mhm.
And you made me realize that.
Mhm.
Me having conversations with you for an hour on my way home from work and us just talking made me realize that, because I ain't gonna lie, I lean to this white supremacy system and Trump and Elon and all these things. Like, yes, those are factors in what we're dealing with. Yes. However, there is a greater accountability that we need to take as Black people. Like, we shy away from that. Like, there's an accountability that we must own up to as Black people, to be like, nah, we bullshitting.
Exactly.
And I don't think a lot of us willing to do that.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yep.
You know, if you want to change the world, the best place to start is in the mirror. Change yourself.
Yep.
That's a great piece of advice.
Mean, don't worry about. My grandfather told me, he used to talk about, you know, I said, Granddad, I want to help somebody. I want to help. You know, he said, you want the best thing? You know what the best thing you can do for poor people?
Help yourself.
Don't be one. Like, do that first.
Like Jay-Z said,
I can't help the poor if I'm one of them.
Here's the thing about
I knew Rich would know my quote.
That's my point. And this is what I mean when I say, you know, yes, all of these political factors are a factor. All of this, the white supremacy, it's a factor, right? But it has nothing to do with your self-improvement. It has nothing to do with you building, making sure your crew is taken care of. Your crew is getting the education it needs. Your crew is getting filled with power and not getting torn down. Because here's what you do. When you sit in your house and you turn out every Black people, every daddy gets arrested. You want to talk about him. This person, you know, all you're doing is talking about your own children. You're talking about the people that look just like the person that you're trying to raise, right? And if you always got something negative to say, negative energy, negative this, negative that, how do you going to expect this product that you're producing to come out in this world and feel like they're good enough to do anything? If nobody ever on your TV popped up, ever in the business community popped up, and you had something great to say about that person, you always just had something negative to say.
Just think about the timeline and how much cleaner it would be if everybody, instead of dogging something, and I always talk about how we live in the generation now where everybody has to have an opinion. Everybody spreads their opinion as if it's facts. The term mid, everybody used to call stuff mid. Well, back in the day, it used to be just good. That was good, and it's okay to be good. Not everything has to be a classic. Not everything has to be trash. Spike, it looks like you're going to say something, because I have a follow-up for David about something that I saw on the internet, and I really, really, really want his opinion on it.
I want ask him that. I just was going to speak to the fact that this conversation has gone so well in the sense of I didn't even get to half the stuff I wanted to get to.
Brother, I'm here for you. You my brother.
Millennial,
so if you need me back, I'm here for you.
Yeah, you're going to have to come back. Like that's a fact. The millennial conversation, I know we're not gonna get into that like we wanted to get into that, like the conversation that me and you had, because I really want to talk about that on air. We haven't gotten into that, so that was the only thing that I was going to express. We've talked about a lot of stuff, but we ain't got into what I really wanted to talk about. And I know, again, you're my brother. You're gonna come back and we'll do this again. But I'm gonna toss to you, Rich, and what you wanted to ask, and I'll let you do whatever you had to ask.
Time out. First of all, just want to put a little disclaimer out there. If you're not inspired right now, check your posts. Like, I don't know. I'm just
this the wrong podcast for you. This is the wrong podcast.
This ain't the wrong podcast, and we appreciate your support. Don't get me wrong, but if you're not inspired right now to really reevaluate things and make yourself better and those around you better, then please check your posts right now. Listen, not only do we want you back, schedule permitting, you can come back next Thursday, literally a week from today, and we're gonna do part 2.
I have to look. I'm in Seattle. I'm going to visit my son.
Okay, we'll work out schedules. Spike,
I definitely do.
I'll make it happen.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll do it as soon as possible. So I do want to, and this might be a perfect place to end, because I sent this to Spike, and it's been circulating around social media. I'm very curious, given that you are in a different generation, of what you think about this statement. Okay.
Okay.
Rapper Nelly, who has been in the news for all types of nonsense recently, that are coming out of his mouth. He was on Drink Champs, and there's a comment that he made. And you have, if I'm not mistaken, you mentioned you have 4 kids, 2 girls, 2 boys, correct?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Correct.
Nelly made a comment of, if something happens with my daughters, they down and out, whatever the case may be. They have a room at my house. They're welcome at my house. They can do anything, whatever they need to do to get right. They're more than welcome to be
they
here.
can stay as long as they want.
They can stay as long as they need to. If my sons are in that same situation, sure, I'm not going to leave them out in the cold. They can come on in, but they don't get a room. They can crash on the couch, maybe for a couple weeks. And after that, they got to go and figure it out. And there's been a lot of mixed opinions on, man, it seems like the black community really hates black men. And then there's the other side of, hey, as black men, we were taught and conditioned to get it out the mud. Almost like there's a piece of weakness if you're enabling someone to be lazy if they need a place to kind of get back on their feet and bounce back. What are your thoughts on that? Because I found it very interesting and really interesting, the discourse about where we should stand as far as how we treat black men versus our black sons versus our black daughters, and just the role of what a man should be doing if they are on hard times.
First, I think, anybody that needs, any one of my children, anybody that needs a space, of course, there's a room in my place always there. And I think it's clear. I think Spike would understand, like nobody's going to put you out in the cold if you need a place, but you have to have a mindset of, this is a resting place, not a long-term stay, right? Yeah. You have to have an energy of getting back off the map. Like when you get knocked down, like I'm a big, with my kids, like, okay, you got knocked down, get up, right? Don't accept down. And I think maybe that's what he was trying to say. I'm not sure. I don't know why you would make it different for your girls and your boys. I would expect both to have a mindset of, okay, I'm down now. It's a now thing. This doesn't have to be tomorrow. It doesn't have to be the next day. It only has to be now, right? And so I wouldn't necessarily put a timeline on it, but I would put a timeline on us having a conversation about what's next for you. What's your mindset? Where's your growth at?
More so for your son than your daughter, right?
Both. I don't understand what difference does it make. Both got to be something. Like I raise all my children to first take care of yourself. Don't have to depend on anybody, woman, man, whatever. And any other person that enters your life, you have to see of them. And this is a big problem too, relationship with black people in marriages. We don't really understand. Marriage is the ultimate business contract. Once you marry somebody, you're taking all your finances, all your things, and you're meshing them into one. And if you guys are not in that kind of space to be able to handle that, finances, it's too romanticized for what it really is. And when people get married, they realize that, it's not as romantic every day as they think it is. Yep. And they lose sight of what we're doing here. We're raising a next generation and giving them the tools to be as successful as possible as a unit. And the unit makes us stronger, and we keep breaking up the units. And, there's no way any family member of mine can't come and stay when they're down. I don't understand that mindset, because there is no, I can't be up and you're down. Like, I can't be,
That's a good point.
If we go, like, Spike knows, if we go out and we're all going out, we all eat. Ain't nobody, like, you can't be sitting over there and you ain't got nothing. And we all,
ain't nobody got to worry about what they eating or what the tab is. Like, no, bro, like we're here.
But we will my dad on down, like there will always come, you will have a conversation about what's next. Where is the growth? What are we doing? And you know, and planning is the biggest, like that's another thing I want to make sure I get out is we don't think about anything about planning. We just living, you know, it's 2025. If you're going to survive, 2030 is going to come, right? So what do you expect your life to look like in 2030? Right? Yeah. What do you want it to look like? And how do you build a path to get it there? The thing is, like, people so easily understand, they jump in the car and they're going somewhere, right? What do? Throw it in the GPS. You don't just take off and start driving. You don't know where the hell you're going. You put a path in there and it'll show you too, hey, this one might be the fastest. This might be this one. You choose one of the paths and you go, right? But with our life, with our businesses, we just go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we land where we land, and then we're like, when we're disappointed, we're like, well, how did I get over here?
Right? Paying attention to the GPS.
What is going on? You didn't even put it in the GPS. You just took off in the car and started driving.
You just
expected to get somewhere, and then when you wind up, who knows where, you don't understand why I got there, and you know, and I think the phone, like. The phone is the computer, all those things are great things, but we've stopped understanding that they're tools. They're not our personality. They're not our life. They're not, like, people can't break it. I mean, you watch them and it's like, it is now a part of whoever they are.
It's like a part of their arm.
It's an extension.
Facts.
Yes. And that has skewed the world to me. Like it's kind of made people not really understand that when somebody hires you, if you hired me to produce this show, I need to produce something. Something has to come out. I can't just collect a check and go home and be like, well, guys, that was great, right? Y'all didn't do shit. And I appreciate it. And that's the mindset. Like, people show up now and they're like, I showed up. Like, okay, like, that
should be enough.
That's not anything special. Yeah, I did my job. That's expected. Like, that's not special. Like, to do your job is not special.
Yeah.
Right? To call your mom, to have a relationship with your siblings. That's not special. You know, special is adopt some kid and raise them for the rest of their life. It's not special to do normal life. Like to me, the great thing I hate most, my grandchildren, my granddaughter just graduated from, they had a fucking graduation for preschool.
Yeah.
For what? Like, and I was like, livid, literally. And my daughter's like, what are you? I'm like, what can you do with a preschool grad? What are you telling the child?
That's a good point.
If you can do something with it, I understand the accomplishment. But there's nothing on life. You telling people they're doing things when they're not.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing what every other human being on earth who has a pulse has done. You graduated preschool. That is like okay, like. And this thing that I feel so special when I have done absolutely nothing, and I need everybody else to equally feel as special about it, is a problem. We're headed deeper into that lane of, I haven't done anything, but yet I feel super special.
I want an award for it.
I need to be doing this. Why don't I have this? Why don't I have that? Open your bank account. Let me see your 30 days. I'll tell you why you ain't got a lot of stuff real fast.
Man.
I want to comment.
Let's play the game. You see mine, I see yours. I show you what I'm buying. You show me what you buy. I guarantee you mine, I bought a whole. If y'all ain't paid attention, the stock market has crashed, right?
It has.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, terrible.
And what happens when it crashes? What's the number one thing that happens?
You buy the low shit.
If you got some cash, you got some cash,
money, you buy the low shit.
Yep.
That's why you keep some cash on the sideline. That's why you pay yourself for these moments right here.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have a housing market crash. At some point, the housing crash is going to crash. You either going to get some houses in or you're not, because you're not going to be prepared. You know what luck is? Luck is when opportunity meets preparation. Nobody is lucky. It's not lucky to get an opportunity that you're not ready for.
It won't happen.
That's not lucky. if XM Radio calls y'all right now and you couldn't put nothing together to talk to them about, that ain't luck.
Right. But when they
You
do
need to
call
be
us, and we
prepared
do
so
got
that they
years,
do call.
when we do got
Yep.
years of experience of doing it, it's like, I ain't luck.
And
They
you
called
gotta
us.
be
That
thinking
was lucky,
about
but we
right
got
now,
everything that they
YouTube.
looking for.
Yeah, man.
What's next? Not what we're doing. How do
Yep.
you're here? You've made it to whatever this is. I don't know what this is. I'm not in the podcast business, but whatever this is, you're here. You need to be thinking about how's 1 million people listening to me? How's 100, 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 people? If you're not in that space thinking about that over the next 5 years, you're doing it wrong. Both of you.
Think about it every day. I always say, man, I'm too smart for dumb luck.
That's the main thing on my mind, brother.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking about.
Right.
Too smart for dumb luck.
I credit you.
Yes.
I credit you every time I see you. You ask me, "How's the podcast business?" It ain't like you don't like not what you're doing, what you podcasting about. How is the business of
the business?
You always make it a point to ask me.
Yes, because if you're not making no money, you got an expensive ass hobby.
Facts.
You don't have a business.
What I will
you
say,
just got a hell of a hobby. That's not a business. Stop calling it a business. If it don't make no money, it's not a business. It's a hobby.
It's a hobby. What I will say to the point of what you asked, Rich, what was the original question?
About Nelly and the kids.
Yeah, I mean,
what I will say to the original point,
I don't care what a rapper says. Let me say that. Can I say that?
No, that's fair.
If you give
especially Nelly.
If you give a fuck what your rapper is talking about, you are thinking about the wrong shit.
Facts.
Let me just break the news to you. If you care more about what Nelly's talking about. You didn't hear what Warren Buffett was talking about. You didn't hear what Elon Musk, what even as crazy as he is, you ain't hearing what they talking about. Mark Zuckerberg, you don't hear the war that's going on with OpenAI, with all these things. If you're not hearing those conversations, you listening to the wrong shit. I'm gonna be honest with you. You're hearing some shit that ain't gonna pay you a damn thing. You give a shit what Nelly is talking about. I don't give two fucks what Nelly has to say. I didn't want to say that, but I don't give a shit what he
man. That's that Dave Chappelle, man. Who gives a fuck what Ja Rule got to say?
Right. Really?
To David's point, what Nelly is saying is totally incorrect, though. I'm not treating my male and female children differently. Yeah, like, bro, yeah, there is a different mindset that you should have as a man, and you're my child that I want you to have. But I ain't kicking you out. I ain't making you sleep on the couch. I'm not giving you a room. Like, that's stupid. That's dumb. You're my family.
Exactly.
I have a vested interest in you being successful.
Exactly.
So yeah, if you need to take more time in my house, that's fine.
Yes.
I think we get into this thing. I ain't even gonna call it black people. Like, just in general, like, we think that men are supposed to, like, oh, you gotta weather the storm. Like, no, bro, I can help you. If I'm in a position to where I can help you, I am going to do that. And I think that him just speaking that way about, like, if I'm gonna have my son here, he ain't gonna do this, like, it's ignorant. It's very ignorant.
Yeah, I got a story to kind of tie in as we wrap this up. But David, I ain't want to cut you off. Were you about to say something?
No, I think just people just really be concerned more about what you need to do and less about
other people.
Spending time reading quotes and figuring out what somebody's talking about that ain't paying you. I just, that's your energy. Here's the thing. We all have the same 24 hours. Warren Buffett got the same 24 hours as you got. If you're going to give, every time you give away an hour, that's one less hour you got to figure out how to make a little bit, how to make whatever you do make more, how to, so you give away 2 hours, 3, 4. You saw a bunch of bullshit on Twitter, on internet, on whatever it is. For what? I mean, what you don't even know what you're looking at somebody else live. Like, you know what you're doing, right? You're watching somebody else get theirs. Somebody else get their paper. Nelly, whatever he does, he raps, he does whatever. I mean, that's his own, like, first of all, he wants clicks. Like, you got to say something controversial for somebody to look at it, right? And the thing is I'm just telling you, seek out somebody that's trying to help you make some money. Seek out, like you said, what do you read? What are you reading? Like, what books are you reading? you know, are you looking at your finances and you're like, you know, I mean, if you're a part of the fast and you're thinking about fasting, you're thinking about all of this stuff, think about saying that the next 30 days, I'm going to have, if I don't have $1,000, I'll have $1,000 saved. And in the next 60 days, I'll have $4,000 or $5,000 saved. You know, have, you know, enough money put up. You know, the worst time to need money is when a crisis happens. Like when the shit happens, you need it then. That's when you need to you have to prepare for whatever is about to happen. But, you know, with your kids, with financing, like teach them about it. Like don't keep sending them out here by themselves without understanding how to even have a bank account. You know, quit using their name and opening up accounts in it. Quit doing stuff like that and ruining your kids' credit before they even get started. And understand that, hey, I gotta learn. You gotta get a saver's mindset. You're never gonna get ahead if you don't ever start to save some money. I just don't know what else to tell people. Like it's not that hard. You know, my granddad saved in a cookie jar. He worked as a porter for the Pullman Train Company from 1920 to 1924, getting spit on, kicked, called every kind of coon nigga you could want be called, and put them little dollars in there and went and bought a concession.
Saved in the cookie jar and bought it and had a business that was built from that though.
Right. And
like, that's what people need to understand. I ain't saving a cookie jar so I could be okay with my family. Like I built a empire from saving in a cookie jar.
In a cookie jar.
Yeah.
Right. And every time he wanted something for the rest of his life, if he couldn't pay cash for it, he didn't buy it because he couldn't afford it. If he's like, if I can't pay for it, I can't afford it. Simple as that. And, you know, instant gratification, it's just like it's why people are fat. It's why people are out of shape. It's why people are all of these things. You eat all that bullshit is because you want 10 minutes of happiness in your mouth. Right? But your body now, your cholesterol, your high blood pressure, all your shit, now you like, why am I sick? How do I feel bad? My mind is bad. We send kids to school and you get in a kid's ass if he's not paying attention. He's not doing the best. But you got a car. If your car says put premium gas, you put premium gas in it. But you send your kid with the worst fuel humanly possible to go do what he needs to do for the day.
Yeah.
You give him some bullshit to eat and then say, go perform. Right? Like, think about what we're doing for a minute. Like, that's the problem. We're not thinking. We're just living and doing in a society. And when you're running something, you have to think of it from the ground up. Everything is ground up. How do we make this work, grow, and expand? Work, grow, and expand. It's what it is. And
True.
I mean, I know I went off on a tangent, but it's just, you know, it's so much that I want.
That's what we had you on for.
I want our people.
No, you ain't go off on a tangent. Yeah. That's exactly why you were a guest today, and that's what we want to hear.
I so badly want our people to know what I saw growing up, that we are powerful beyond imagination.
We're going to have another episode about that.
I was about to say, and that's exactly why you're going to be back. I just want to get my 2 cents real quick because it's a real thing. Mm-hmm. I remember I was 24 years old. This is 2011. I moving from Toledo, Ohio, back to Cincinnati, Ohio, right? Didn't have a plan. Didn't really know what was next for me at that point in my life. My mom was married to someone, and I moved back in with my mom, and obviously that was his house, right? Mm-hmm. This is all in the same gist of the whole comment that Nelly made.
Right.
And I'm always grateful for that. And I'm gonna tell a story that happened. I've always been a go-getter, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody's really had to tell me if I'm down, which at that point I consider myself down, which was, and down doesn't mean you down and out. That just means like I don't have a plan. I need to figure that out ASAP, right? And I need to do whatever, like nothing else matters. Like hobbies don't matter. None of that matters until I figure out what the hell is gonna happen for me next, right? So I'm talking to the point where I didn't even have a car. I bought a bike, like a pedal bike, a 10-speed, to make it to up and down this main road going for job applications, right? I'm taking the bus downtown to job fairs, all type of stuff. Ended up landing on my feet, things working out, right? Like I said, this is my mom's husband, so he's not related to me by blood. So taking a grown man in, I can understand that, right? Taking a grown man in is one thing. Open up your home. Here's a space for you. Figure it out. I'll never forget, maybe about 8-9 months into it, I got the job. I'm stacking up money. The fellas wanted to have a trip, man. Wanted to go to Virginia Beach. Right? It's planning this trip to Virginia Beach. Oh, man, that sounds dope. Fellas trip, man. Let's go to Virginia Beach. I'm planning it. I'm doing this. I go to Virginia Beach, right? Come back. He sits me down. And I always appreciate this talk. I knew it, but to hear it is something else. He sits me down and said, listen, I have no problem being here for you. You know, I love your mother. That's my wife. No problem being of any assistance for anything you need. However, I do want to make sure you understand, you know how this looks. You're taking trips while you don't have a place to call your own. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And there's a twofold to it. I mentioned how the internet was split because, hey, men are taught to get it out the mud. You got to figure it out. Or, hey, men actually need some grace in order to figure it out. There was a mixture of both for me. He said, I just want you to know, listen, I don't mind you being here. But you have to understand what your next move is and when that's going to look like. 6 weeks later, first apartment or own apartment, I'm out of there. That's all I needed. I just needed to hear that because he was absolutely right. He was 100% right. Like nothing should have mattered until I got what I needed, and then you start making those plans.
Then you make those plans, right?
And it wasn't contentious. It wasn't anything crazy. And of course, you that age, and you're like, man, I can't believe it. I'm like, you're absolutely right, man. Here you are. I'm not a stranger to him. But we don't know each other.
Right.
For you to be upstairs, sleeping, living, key to the crib, the whole nine, I at least just want you to do your part. And I'm gonna help you get there. But you gotta have a plan. You gotta have a plan.
Right.
Show up.
Yeah, exactly.
And he knew what type of man I was. And that's why he could have that talk with me. Because I've seen you do it. I admire the fact that you up here literally riding a bike to work, ended up getting a car, getting all that stuff, and everything from there has only been up. But that's my 2 cents for it. And real quick, David, before we exit, I want to ask you, can you share with us one more time the name of your grandfather and grandmother?
Sure. Walter and Susie Swett that was my grandparents. They were from
Walter and Sue. Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
From Dixon, Tennessee. My grandmother was from Nashville. My father was from Dixon. Interesting. I mean, it's really interesting. He comes from Dixon, Tennessee, Cheatham County, where Montgomery Bell, there's a school, big private school called Montgomery Bell, a state park named after Montgomery Bell. So he was the largest slave owner in Tennessee. So he was a bachelor. He was a bachelor. He never was married, and he took my grandfather's great grandmother, his slave, as a mate. And
before we get out
real
of
quick,
here.
Real quick, Spike. I'm sorry. I just want to tie that up. The reason I asked that. And is Susie or Susan? I want to make sure I get that right. Susie. All right. So
Susie. Yes.
Okay. The only reason I ask, and the only reason I want to make sure I make this point, David, I told you, man, this is just a very aspiring and inspirational conversation. We could keep going for hours upon a time, and that's why we're definitely going to have you back. I'm a big believer personally, right? We talked about faith, man. I'm a big believer. And for me personally, I lost my dad in 2020, and I lost, all my grandparents. And I'm a big believer that it's our duty as the living, as the descendants, to anytime we get an opportunity to keep people's names alive and make sure that it's still spoken today, that we do that. And there's no way that you can share your family history and this incredible journey for the Swetts without me at least acknowledging your grandparents and making sure that us at Another Week in the Books spoke their names, kept their name alive, even in 2025. Literally 101 years later, if I'm not mistaken, I think you said 1924, or was it 26?
Yep, 24.
101 years later, and their name still rings out and it still lives. That's important because one day we're going to be those people that transition and turn into ancestors. And hopefully we leave enough of a legacy and we leave enough jewels that there are people still speaking our name well after we're gone. So just want to give them their proper respect and just due, because the Swett family has an incredible legacy. And I'm just appreciative to be able to sit here and converse with you and be able to learn about it even deeper and all the knowledge that you shared on it. So I appreciate that. Spike Lou, what you got?
Thank you.
Yeah, same thing. I don't even know if David understands how much this meant to me. As far as like we have a personal relationship, so we can talk to each other, and it's different in the sense of, oh, me and you are having Thanksgiving dinner together or a Christmas dinner together, but in the sense of doing this in the podcast in the field, I do this, and for you to come and be as open as you've been, and for us to be able to have the type of conversations that we have, I want you to understand like how much I appreciate this.
Amen.
Like
And I'm trying to.
this means a lot to me.
Amen. I got
was
you.
just about
You
to
my
say-
brother. You know that.
I was about to say, man, I'm trying to get on that one phone call a month club too, man. I got questions for
No.
you, David, man. I got some questions. Man.
We ain't even did it like we supposed to do it. We spoke
No,
like we have it. And
I'll take
it's
Spike's
my
spot,
fault.
man. Don't worry about it. Go ahead, Spike. Keep playing. Keep playing,
No,
Spike.
yeah. We ain't even did it like he called me and told me we need to do it, and I haven't been able to do it like we need to do it. But I will say, like, you being as open as you have been to this conversation and just listening to us and sharing your perspective, it goes a long way.
Amen.
And I want you to know that I appreciate that. Like that, it go like that's fire. Yeah,
absolutely.
Hey,
absolutely. So
I love to see it. I mean, I'm for our people, man, and you guys, my brothers. We all have a journey, and we just gotta get on it, man. I'm loving what you guys are doing. I'm loving the conversations. It's needed. What you guys are doing is needed, and understand that. Like, you're gonna be shocked, and I'm speaking this right now, where this is gonna lead you in the next few years. Like, it is truly this important. And audience, tap in, call somebody, have them tap in. Like, if you really want to be Black and be proud, tap in. Plug in. Support the brothers. Send somebody else to support them. If everybody sends somebody, and we keep sending somebody, we can all eat at this table. It is not just one table. The table is fat and it's feastful, and it's a lot of food left on it. We just don't even get to the table. But we ain't gonna get to the table if we don't connect now.
Yep.
And I'm talking to the people out there.
These conversations are what get us to the table.
Yes, connect.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, brothers.
He's David Swett Jr. I'm Rich. Obviously, got the incomparable Spike Lou.
Yes.
We appreciate y'all. Chapter 21. We'll see y'all next week. Peace. Let's get better this week.